Hey, how's it going? My name is Ken, and I'm CEO of ICOvenutre. Today, I want to talk about initial token offering and how to fund your startup by tokenization. Due to technology, we have arrived in a year where the playing field of entrepreneurship is leveled. Everyone who has the skills, talent can buy something amazing. Although in some cases, we need to fund, we need some funding to reach the next level. And today's topic is about funding. When startup owners are looking for the funding, they're usually flirting with different ideas, such as getting a loan or finding an angel investor, venture capital, or high net individuals, family offices, or going and doing a crowdfunding campaign. And in the past couple of years, due to fast change and the growth of technology, and especially in the blockchain industry, there has been coming up some alternatives. And today I want to talk about more on alternative roads, as for example, using blockchain and how to use blockchain to basically get extra funding. So what we have been calling it is actually decentralized crowdfunding. And what does it mean? Uh, Basically, this webinar is for people who have already made a decision that they're going to fund their startup by a token sale, or they are still on the fence and thinking like, hey, if this is something for me or not. And by end of the webinar, I hope you have a good enough understanding that you can decide, should you go ahead, run with this information, or get a team that will help you out uh, on that path to fund your startup, and hopefully get the right tool set. You will get the right tool set to do so. What I'm going to show you is just a quick overview on how to do it, and basically how to move forward. What will you learn in this episode or in this webinar is, should you launch a token sale, and what are the options on launching the token sale? What you need to do to launch an ITO, its initial token offering, or ICO or STO. The thing is that the technology behind it is actually similar. I will get into it a little bit later down the road. Another question, what you will probably learn and what you need is, should you build that infrastructure in-house or use ready-made solutions for it? There are some pros and cons on both sides. Of course, what is decentralized crowdfunding, and of course some field experience of what has happened, or what should we learn from other mistakes, and what other companies and projects have been doing well. And of course, some parting thoughts, so you can make your decision. Hey, should you go forward and take the information and run with that, and build your own funding campaign, or maybe it's not for you. Maybe you should go and get straight to calling VCs and angel investors. So this is also an option. So should you launch a token sale? Yeah. What's decentralized crowdfunding, also known as ITO or ICO or STO? Basically, it's when you're going to launch your funding campaign on blockchain. There has been upcoming a lot of different names. They all technically mean the same thing. There are some variations. For example, there's ICO, which is for initial coin offering, and usually initial coin offering is made for cryptocurrencies such as Ethereum or Bitcoin or Ripple and so forth, like EOS. In today's topic, that isn't that much relevant, because we are mostly thinking about ITOs, initial token offering, STO, security token offering, and ETO, equity token offering, which is kind of the same thing. There are some differences. For example, in ITO, it's more broader version of it. As we are going down the path, there is like utility tokens and also security tokens, but we will get into it a little bit later. And what's the key thing for decentralized crowdfunding or going through the tokenization is it's basically taking your company public. It's similar functions to IPO, but the thing is that all the assets are issued already on blockchain, and due to that, there are some different regulations in part. The whole process of taking your company public through the ICO versus IPO, uh, there are some differences. We'll get into it a little bit later as well. And of course, why are investors already interested in decentralized crowdfundings? If you're familiar with the space we're in right now, there has been a lot of let's say crazy valuations going around on basically just on a mere idea. And actually, what we have been seeing for past couple of years is of course there has been some projects that shouldn't raise that amount of money in the first place for the idea, or not for the idea but for the execution. Because when we're watching as companies as a venture capital firm or as angel investors, when we're looking to companies to invest in, then the due diligence wouldn't never have hold up on the quality that they were promising. So this is the thing with the new markets, that there's a lot of dumb money there, which fortunately is closing up a little bit. So what it means is that the whole market is maturing. So the quality of projects are actually raising up, because the bad projects, they just don't get funding anymore. Neither they should. So that's a really good thing. And of course, why investors are interested in decentralized crowdfunding is, of course, the global accessibility, which means that before you got an opportunity to invest in a company, like before they went public through IPO, was basically you had to know the person personally. It has to be a friend of yours. Say, hey, invest like 50,000 in my company, and then hopefully it will make exit in the next 3-4 years, or get acquired by, or we have to raise more capital, which is sometimes the case. But of course, when we are talking about global access, then it means that basically the barriers to invest in company has been eliminated by the middlemen, which are usually like gatekeepers for accessing. Another thing is that no person asset storage. I have to get a better name for it, but person asset storage is good for. It means that you don't need a middleman to hold your funds. You can hold your funds as you want. It means that you don't have to be reliable, or you don't have to have a third party to hold your assets. For example, before when you needed to buy like company stocks or so forth, you needed a broker to take care of it. Of course, now still you can just go to the basically token exchange and buy them straight from there. Right, next. Niche token offering market in the past couple of years has been changing because it has been maturing, as I said before. Before people could raise 100 mil on some large idea that sounded like huge, and what they have been ending up with is basically they have raised all the money, but they haven't been delivering on it, and basically they have been raising staggering amounts of money only as a seed round. Seed round means like basically it's an idea phase. Today to raise over 5 mil in funding, if you want to raise 5 million funding, it means that you at least have to have a working minimum viable product MVP, or you have to have the contracts in place that you can show and show your investors as well that hey, we are if there are some larger projects as we are working on as well and helping them to raise funds throughout the ICOventures platform. Basically, they have large contracts in place, which will need some capital, extra capital, for example, for some larger manufacturing processes. So yeah, and in the retrospect, the market, as I said, one thing it's maturing, another thing it's the quality is going higher. So people who want to do a token sale, they have to have some viable product or some viable idea that's actually making a difference. There won't be that many coin offerings anymore who are trying to make their own cryptocurrency because most of like 99% of the offerings what we have been seeing like initial coin offerings, they are usually there isn't good enough value proposition. There will be something coming up which will have the value, which will be something probably better than blockchain, I mean probably better than Bitcoin, and will be used as a currency. There is a high probability for that. That's it. The future where everything is moving is they are moving closer to STOs, which means security token offerings. As the regulations are coming up into place, the regulations are moving further as it's becoming more acceptable by the nations and to launch their own security token for companies to launch the security token. So this is something where the industry is moving towards. They're moving away from ICOs towards the security tokens or initial token offerings. What I'm gonna talk about next is what do you need to launch an ICO, right? So first of all, as I said, you need a minimum viable product, or you need to have great contracts in place or patents or something like that to get started on the whole process of funding. And the main thing for it is you need to have something that people can trust in. Basically, if you have a product and people like the product, they will invest in the product. If people don't like the product, then let's be honest, they won't put their money in. Another thing what you need to do is, of course, have the registered company. When you're opening up a bank account, there might be in some countries, there will be some complications if your bank account and banks aren't that crypto compliant yet. But it's not that banks don't want their money. They always want money. But the thing is that they're afraid of that somehow it won't be used in they won't be compliant, or the funding method won't be compliant with basically their anti-money laundering regulations. But if you can provide them with a great source of verified investors, because then usually there isn't that problem with banks to open up a bank accounts. Of course, what you need is to set up a white paper. You can usually outsource most of the process from fund your project. So you can focus on building your actual product and your actual business, so you can hire teams and so forth. But when it comes to white paper, it's like business plan, and that's the basically only thing that you shouldn't outsource. You can outsource editors and after the fact when the white plan or white paper is written, but for writing the white paper, it should be done by the founders because they are the heart and the core of the whole business. Otherwise, the white paper wouldn't be as true as as it should. Of course, what I'm going to cover next also is a technical part, because decentralized crowdfunding is relatively technical as well. And what we are usually focusing on is technical side, which is usually for creating a crowdfunding campaign, you need landing page, you need launching a smart contract, or basically token. And of course, there's a decentralized token sale platform where you need to basically get the customers or investors to do the KYC, or just collect funds and give your investors overview of what's happening. And if you're launching a security token, then it can be used as basically investor dashboard, where they can in the future collect their dividends or rewards and so forth, to if they have purchased tokens before. And of course, what I'm going to cover is the main question in token sale is, if you're going to launch a utility token or a security token, there's a huge difference between it. The main difference isn't the technology, but it's actually the legal questions. So there are things to look into. So yeah. So basically, decentralized crowdfunding and landing page. What should you do? What you shouldn't do? The main idea of the landing page is to give a great understanding of who's behind the project and what you do, and also about what the project is about, and so forth. First of all, you have to make sure that your crowdfunding page looks professional, because we are also running a company called ICOstream, which is ICO listing page, and we get more than 10 applications every single day, which means that we are usually accepting 1 out of 10 to be published on ICOstream page, which is pretty low. And the main factor is that the quality of landing page is just terrible. This is like one of the main reasons, and it might be superficial, but the thing is that if they haven't set enough skill set on a side, or if they haven't gotten enough manpower or whatsoever to get the proper landing page, then there's a really, really high probability that the project will not go through, which means that it won't get enough funding. And another thing is that if the people don't have attention to detail, then a person wouldn't like to give them my own money. So yeah. And another thing is that if they can't market themselves already, then it's also another thing. It's really hard for me as an investor to hope to get a great return on it, unless they are willing to, of course, get hire the right people for it, which is totally another story. But yeah. Another thing, if you have already launched MVP or minimum viable product, keep your landing page and crowdfunding campaign separate from your main product page, because of course you will be getting Google and so forth if you launch the token sale, but also it's not good to mix them both. There are some security issues and so forth on that. Okay, so basically what you need to do is, for having a professional website or landing page, you need to make it clear what's the project about. It takes usually less than 3 seconds for us to make a great impression. In today's world, it's actually 1 second. So if your page doesn't load fast enough, or they don't understand in the first 1 to 3 seconds what is it about, then there is a 90% probability that they will leave your page. And that's not good, especially if you're looking for funding. in a crowdfunding stage. Another thing is that you should have some indicators of social proof as well. For example, if you have been covered in media, you should be there as a media, put there as a media outlets where you have been covered, or for example, if you have some previous investors or great team members, you should be covering that as well, or great partners that are also known for. And another thing, what you should, of course, add there, as I said before, you should have definitely the white paper, because projects without white paper don't get funded. And of course, to add as extra, in some countries already, if you have written white paper, you can't actually change the white paper after the launch of token sale, because it's already legal in some countries. So because you will be changing promises to the investors, and because there has been so many scams, people are really sensitive around that subject. So of course, yeah, you need the white paper. What you should also display on a deal should display is who are the people behind it, what are the credentials, what are they doing, and basically, if people are investing in companies, they're usually investing in people and the product and the whole package. And it might be a great idea, but the team is like, for example, they're trying to build next spaceship. Let's go that way. They're trying to build next spaceship, but the whole team is made out of web designers. Then this isn't the highest probability of successful project, because no one actually knows anything about physicists or basically rocket science. Of course, you need product advisors to have your team on your team, but there's another thing that potential red flag is if you have like small team and you have more advisors on the team than action members. And this is the case because in the beginning, a lot of ICOs just bought in advisors to raise more money, and basically the advisors were just faces with a nice resume that actually never even talked to the team in some cases. So this is why it has become a red flag for the whole company, and as if they are trying to get in investments in. And if, as I mentioned before, if possible, add previous investors like VC funds or angel investors, just to get extra social proof. And of course, you need to face and give the clear understanding of like, hey, what is your industry facing? What is the exact problem that you are trying to solve for the market? And of course, for example, bring out four problems that your company or product or services or market has right now, and for 4 different ideas how this product or service can solve it. And of course, what investors are looking for are milestones. If you get the funding or before the funding, as like what you guys have been doing since today, and what will be that, for example, next couple of years goal, next 5 years goal. The truth is that the startup base or the technology base is rapidly changing so rapidly, but the goals should be a little bit larger. That gives investors a better understanding of what is the vision of the company and where is the company headed, so they can make the right choice, hey, if it's something for you or not, or if it's something for them or not. So of course there's another thing called allocation of assets, which means, for example, if you're issuing a token, how you can allocate the token. For example, you can allocate the token like you can give 5% to team, and then you can, for example, sell off 70% in a token offering, and then give like 2% as a marketing campaign. 2% as a marketing campaign, and for example, I don't know, something else. Yeah, give something a backup, and what's left of it can be burned or whatever is the right tokenization or token economics model. Right. Of course, what everyone wants to know is what they will do with what will you do with their money. So funding allocation, and be as transparent and be brutally transparent with everything, because everything will be found out eventually. So it's better to be as transparent as possible up front. And that token sale information. Token sale information is just basic terms for the token sale. For example, how many tokens are you going to issue? When is the sale going to start and end? Do you have different stages of funding and so forth? And of course, links to social accounts, because this is one of the main ways how people can verify what you guys are up to and see, because all the investors are really, really interested what's happening actually behind the doors, because this is the opportunity for them to see what's actually happening in the company. And translation is important part, because for every culture, or it will make them feel more pleasant to your company to read the material in their own language. But it also creates a lot of overhead, especially when we are talking about white papers. And if you're trying to have, for example, white paper in every different language, then it will add up a lot of hours in total to get everything properly done. So if you would do it, if you're trying to be as cost effective as possible and get the most upside, then what we would do is basically create the landing page and system. It can be translated in different languages, but white paper can be only in English or something like that. Okay, what I'm going to talk about now is the investor platform. And basically there are different ways to launch your token sale. One way is to do it fully on blockchain, and another version is to use like investor platform for it, which is like white label solution for every project. What we are talking about today is going through the platform, because as we're talking on blockchain, is that if you're talking about security tokens and investing money, usually when you invest in companies, it takes a couple of years or somewhere around there to have a proper return on the capital and to exit from your deal or so forth. And by that said, the blockchain technology is relevantly new. That, for example, if you're issuing your Ethereum token, then there might be a high probability that Ethereum won't be there in 4 years. There will be something much better already, and therefore it's risky to tie all the valuation of the company on one blockchain-based solution. So therefore, what we are using is investor dashboard, which gives basically a proxy, so your company can easily switch over if they want from token model or not. And of course, it's an easy place for your company to manage all the investors and so forth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some examples what the investor dashboard looks like, and what we have been doing, for example, in ICOvenutre. what you can do is take it as a information. You can go and run with that and build something on your own, or you can also find other people. Okay, so what we are going to talk about next is setting up the investor platform and why do you need investor platform, and is it something also for you? So basically, there are two ways to do a crowdfunding. One is going full out on blockchain, doing everything on blockchain, or another one is using still simple version of the platform. There are pros and cons on both. The main thing why we are using the platform instead of going full out on the blockchain is the blockchain isn't 100% there yet. On main issue is the usability, because most of the investors are still kind of new to whole industry, and the main idea is that if people don't understand something, they will probably reject it right away. So this is the main reason why we aren't using 100% like blockchain solutions, which are like smart contracts that runs everything. And another thing is that, for example, if you're why the blockchain isn't 100% there yet, to make it all scale, making like full on platform on blockchain only, is if you want to, for example, if you're running or launching a token on like Ethereum, like there are ERC20 tokens, for example, then there is an issue with that if, for example, when I'm an investor or so forth, someone else wants to invest the project, usually the return of investment is actually 3 to 4 years. When you can actually cash it out sooner if you choose to do whatever you want. But if you're investing like in actual projects, not just get quick rich schemes or whatever, but if you're investing in actual projects that are bringing real company and real product, then probably 3 to 4 years. And if they're launching a token like on one blockchain or another, it's great. It's already the whole idea. But if they're trying to build a security token and they want to build and pay out dividends, for example, on Ethereum or in Ethereum, then there's a high probability that the Ethereum won't be there in 3 to 4 years. Maybe there's something better. And for that time, if there's paying out dividends in Ethereum, it's like, okay, great to get dividends in Ethereum, everything works, but there's another demand and supply question, is if someone is there to buy those ethers. So therefore, tying up the company valuation to the one blockchain token isn't the best idea. That said, why this is one of the reasons why I also use investor dashboards is also besides scalability, besides user experience, to make it really easy. There's a main issue of the whole like the valuation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you quickly, for example, one of the projects that we have been doing, which is called Selectrix. I'm not here to promote Selectrix. I'm just going to show basically how the dashboard looks. This is a great project. You should check it out. But yeah, anyways, this is how it looks when you have been signing in. And basically, the main idea of the dashboard is to give the great overview of everything what's happening in a project in a one place, and make it really, really simple for investors to get into the project and basically to invest in the project. Okay, investor dashboard. This is one of the examples of investor dashboards of our partners who we are working with, for example, Selectrix. And this is the investor dashboard. The main idea for the dashboard is to give a great tool for the company and for investors to participate in their project. So, for example, what here the Selectrix does is they're issuing tokens that's backed by the company. And yes, right, dashboard. Okay, the next topic. Now I'm going to talk about the investor dashboard. For example, here I'm going to show you Zelectrix, who's one of our partners, and they're right now in the pre-sale or private sale mode, and basically here you can see all the information that you have about their dashboard. The main idea here is to give the customer or the investors the first great first impression, and give them all the details they need to know before making the purchase or making the investment. So basically what here is that this ICO is separate in different stages. You can go ahead and get invested in right now by pressing the buy tokens. Or basically what you can do is just go there, see there's a private sale and there's also ICO price. The prices seem same, but how they're working right now is basically the first stage you take investors who are coming in first. Usually they have much higher risks than investors who are joining a little bit later. And basically the first investors get actually 50% extra, and the second on the people or investors who are backing the project are actually can get 30% bonus as for the tokens. So, and if the company goes public, then already on the exchange, then there will be no bonus. So this is how they have been structuring their model. And of course, some projects like to do it, and it makes actual sense, especially for that project, is they have also minimum purchase amount, which is 400, and which is for other people, because they will be getting actually more value. And another place, of course, if you watch a little bit down further, is here's the token balance. You can see the current token price, total value, and of course, some projects are interested also in the affiliate bonus and so forth. Of course, it's good to have all the ICO sale details, so you get the overview of of all the details of the project and so forth. And another thing is to make it really easy and simple for people to purchase the tokens. For example, when I purchase for 1 Ether, and all I have to do is just, it will convert in different currencies as well. And see, you need 400. Example, you need 500 those, which is 3 Ethers. What I can do is go forward, play with Ether, basically send the transaction to the right address. You can also check it live, like for the payment information, if it has gone through or not. And basically what we have done in the ICOvenutre, everything is already automated. And to just show you, for example, this is the same last payment, which is pending. All right. Of course, it's a great place. A dashboard should be for both parties. It's for the company to have all the information about about the investors, and also investors have all the information about the company and about the token. In the end of the sale, this is the platform where they can also access their tokens, and basically what there will be is people can enter their token ERC20 address where the tokens can be accepted, and then the tokens will be sent to this address after the sale. Another thing, what I was mentioning about is the verification process, which is really important, especially if the banks, to be compliant with the banks, and if you want to finally turn your crypto into US dollars or other currencies, banks will need to know where the money is actually coming from. And this is something what we at the ICOvenutre, we have been partnering up with one of the leading verification company. Okay, verification process. This is one of the most important parts of the token, especially if you are interested in turning your like Bitcoin or Ether or EOS or other currency into the US dollars or other fiat. And the main thing is you need to verify for the banks who those people are, and if the funds have become from the right sources, that they are not tied up to some terrorist funding or some cartel or something else. So basically, how the verification process works, it's pretty straightforward, and especially we at ICOvenutre, we're using partners like Verif, who has one of the largest ranges of informations. They're using algorithms to make sure that the people are actually who they claim to be. I'm going to show you really quickly how it works. I'm not going to do it full on with my passport or ID because the security reasons. And I would recommend anyone else never share any of your personal information like passports or ID cards with anyone else but themselves. So, for example, there are different ways you can use passport, you can use ID card, you can use driver's license. For example, I'm going to show you ID card. I agree with terms and conditions. What I'm going to do is I'm going to allow, hello, I'm now in the double screen. So it made sure that, hey, my camera is working. So this is pretty straightforward, and taking photos, basically it's done in 4 simple steps. And it's really good usually for the conversion as well. And basically what it does is it's going to take the portrait photo. You have to take your ID card. You're going to make a picture of front, back. And then what it does, it's going to process all the data of your customers in simple form, and basically make sure that all the funds are coming from the right place. Hey, if the verification went through, or if it needs some extra intervention, for example, there might be cases where people are holding like thumb or something on some important numbers. So it's up to team to decide, hey, if you're going to let that verification through and accept the funds, it's on your own responsibility. Or if the verification was totally rejected, means that, hey, this person they made the background check, the funds are coming from I don't know, ISIS, and you shouldn't deal with that person. So please deal with that information accordingly. Okay, so this is it about the investor dashboard. Next, what I'm going to show you is tokenization and tokens, and how to move forward with that. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to carry on to the next topic, which is setting up a smart contract on a blockchain. What blockchain will you be using? That's one question. Most of the ITOs or ICOs or STOs run on the ERC20 token or other similar Ethereum blockchain token, or there has been new blockchains also coming out like Waves or or EOS, and many more. But another thing what you have to keep in mind is creating a smart contract well in advance of the token sale. It should be published at least same time as the again setting up. What I'm going to talk about now is setting up smart contract on a blockchain. What blockchain will you be using is one of the questions. And for example, most of the token offerings and tokens are usually currently done on ERC20, which is Ethereum blockchain. There are different variations of it, of ERC tokens. And of course, there are other blockchains like EOS and so on that the tokens can be also issued on. Another thing to remember is to set up your smart contract well in advance before the token sale. So therefore you make sure that everything's running and everything is audited as well. Of course, talking about audit, security, also audit your tokens and let third parties to audit your tokens as well, and make sure that everything is bulletproof. And you also need to set up your wallets to receive the payments. We are using different payment solutions on ICOvenutre as well. So if you're interested, you can contact us as well for more information. But you have to make sure that your payment systems are capable of receiving the right tokens. And of course, you have to give the right information to your token or investors as well, so they wouldn't send Bitcoin tokens to Ethereum wallet because they will be gone forever. And yes, another thing what I'm going to talk about is security. Security is one of the most important things, if not the most important thing when we're talking about the platform, especially when we're talking about investors' money, and especially when we're talking money. There are people who always want to, one way or another way, gain access to the funds that aren't theirs, and which has been the problem throughout the history of humankind, right? And the main thing about, for example, when we're talking about ICOventures, then what we're doing is we're using different service providers, and also we have been working really hard to eliminate that. Basically, they're the main things. Okay, security. So security is one of the most important parts of the token platform or the investor platform. Because when we're talking about money, then there is always someone who wants to get their hands on. And here's the list of things that you should check out for, and you have to make sure that your platform also is covering them. For example, DDoS protection, because we have launched already from 10 projects, I think 9 of them have been DDoSed on the first month. So this is the main thing. So what we have been doing is that we have been using different services or different security measures to make sure that even if your project is getting DDoSed, nothing will happen, and actually no one will even see that the company is getting DDoSed. So that's one thing. There are different ways that tokens or security can be breached. One here is what is shown is more technical side. Another way is basically your company, or there will be different scams running around with your companies probably, especially if you're getting more traction. And by doing so, there will be like phishing sites, which are like copies of your sites, and people will be trying to get investors on actually a copy of the site. And there has been some cases where it has been really well done, which I mean that a lot of people found out like on a week later, like, hey, oops, we actually sent people we actually sent the funds to wrong people involved. So that's it. If you have got more questions, then send them to my email or Twitter at kenland or LinkedIn at kenland. And thank you very much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.